monstrosity. Boy, that flew. Well, sometimes when they're hit, they stay hit. Kieran Tierney.
Welcome to After Extra Time, the World Football Podcast, and I am back. That's right, I'm back. I'm Paul M. Bakes, and this is the place to be for the big news, the big names, and the big games in the world of football. Joining me this week is the author of the Sunny the Sloth children's book series, a long-suffering Liverpool fan, an old-timey newspaper man. It's Stuart Kavanaugh. And I have now recently joined Stuart Kavanaugh as middle-aged, football-obsessed men who left areas that were more densely populated to move to places that are, well, less densely populated. But I don't know how else to really explain it. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, man. How are you doing? You had the big move while you were on break. Let us know about it. How's the new place?
Ideally, it would have been good to do moving while on international break instead of during. Not only I had final packing, final prep was during deadline day, so we didn't even get a chance to do a summer transfer window deadline day show, but also fixture congestion. But thanks to my better half, Kristen, who really would have been a total disaster for her. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, well, you might not have moved during an international break, but you did move while the Queen died, so that kind of helped things a little bit.
Yeah, that's true. This past weekend did have an international break feel with the passing of Queen Elizabeth II, and that's gonna and we're this weekend coming up. I mean, this is gonna alter the format of our show. It's alter our content schedule. Mm-hmm. From what I read, there's supposed to be well over 1 million people expected to head into London for the Queen's funeral next Monday.
Wow, that's incredible. 1 million people. So I imagine that's what the line was like at the Prince's Row Lip Fest, Paul.
Oh, absolutely. I just had to beat him away with the stick. What can I say? So I did a couple big media appearances during my time away from the pod. One was I did a Zoom call with NTD News. NTD News is a cable channel. That was about the 52 Topps Mickey Mantle that sold for $12.6 million. That was wow, a record for a sports card. So I lent my expertise to that. But the bigger news was, more exciting when you get into the real world and the real life kind of thing, was the Printers Row Literary Festival. Now, Printers Row Lit Fest is the biggest book fair in the Midwestern United States, and I had a table for a book signing on Saturday. Mm-hmm. And I'd like to say that Stella had a book signing, and she let me come along.
I did see those. I'm not sure if it was Insta or Twitter, but I did see Stella there at the signing table. It was very funny.
Yeah, I mean, someone asked me how book sales were, and I said, well, Stella had a great time. It was great to go for Stella. And one thing I found really interesting though was a lit fest like this, there are literary people that are sports fans and sports fans that are literary, and it's a very small sample size. I was only there for 90 minutes. It was just one day. Very, very fortunate though, because I went on Saturday, and Sunday just monsoon season hit us. Just these storms came through Chicago, so I wouldn't have even been able to show up on Sunday. I saw one woman with an Auburn football jersey, and I saw 3 dudes with soccer jerseys. One was FC Copenhagen. One was Andres Iniesta, and it was a very bizarre kit. I think it's one of the alternate Spain jerseys. And then one guy had a blue Manchester United from the 2016, from the Europa League winning year. And so this United guy was hanging out in my area the whole time, going back and forth. Andy had a dog, so I was like, I actually wore my United shirt to this, and obviously I
Okay.
brought my dog. So I was like,
Kindred
but this
spirits.
guy, he just did not. He did. I tried to get his attention. He didn't care. All I'm saying is, look, soccer. I did not see any MLB. I did not see NFL. I did not see NBA. Anything else. All the sports that I saw was soccer. So there you go.
It's time for the winners and losers segment, Paul. So let's do this. Best foot forward, all that jazz, mate. Give us your big winner in the world of football this week.
I'm gonna go with any team that's suffering an injury crisis, or just has issues with selection. I noticed in one of your previews on the Sports Bank, I believe it was in the Juventus one. Well, I mean, forget Juventus. Let me rephrase that. Premier League teams that needed extra time to heal. An example would be Manchester City. They've had two defenders. Well, one of their best defenders has been out long term and is still out. But then they've got two guys in Kyle Walker and John Stones that have been touch and go and battling fitness. I got one's ready to go against Borussia Dortmund tomorrow night. The other one won't be. But getting last week off, they do play this weekend. But some teams that don't play an international break, that's my big winner. Anyone who benefited from getting healthy during the pause this past weekend.
Yeah, I completely agree with this. This is a great one. I actually struggled to find something for my winner that wasn't exactly this. It is good. Manchester City, Liverpool, obviously, as well, with their injury crisis, are starting to get some players back. Also, with just the woeful football they were playing, it's good to get time on the training track too. So I think that's a great winner. And it kind of segues into mine, which is the EPL teams who might be struggling a little bit, but they're not in European competition. I think once the season kicks off, it's a pretty rare thing to get a full, 7 days on the training track with the coach and the entire first team. And I think that's probably an opportunity that a lot of teams have had in the past week.
Yeah, that's a great one. That's a perfect one. Leeds United States of America is going to end up now going almost a month without a match. Same for Crystal Palace. And Brighton. I mean, look at it. It's about all three of those teams are going to end up being about 28, 29, 30 days.
Without playing a game. That's incredible.
Without playing a game.
Yeah, I guess it's a good warm-up for when they won't play a game for 6 weeks when the World Cup is on, I suppose.
I mean, there's always, it can go both ways. There's always the idea that sometimes you get too much tread on the tires from fixture congestion. And this as a Liverpool fan, when they were in like when that 1 year 5 competitions all the way down to the end versus they can go the other way where you rest too much and you get rusty. Well, let's just like wrap it all up. Mine is Tukolaban or whatever, like Taliban.
Yeah. Explain this to me, mate. I don't know this one. What is this term?
This is just one of those weird things that I've come across on Twitter. It's always funny in the world of football to see these people from all over the world and all over different cultures, different countries, and the teams they support and everything. I'm not calling Thomas Tuchel a terrorist. I am just saying that the people who hate him, that's what they called him, a terrorist. They even I've seen like Photoshops where he's wearing a turban to look like Osama bin Laden and
oh my God,
things like that. Yeah, it's a bit extreme. It's a bit extreme to say the least. So put aside that stuff. Their actual complaints were very, very legit. And their complaints are that Thomas Tuchel has never met a wingback he didn't like. He never had a problem putting anybody to play wingback and defend. I mean, I've seen some funny GIFs where they make a team and it's like 9 defenders and 1 forward playing. And, I mean, there was always a lot about Jose Mourinho for parking the bus and the chance of boring Chelsea, but
Mhm.
Tuchel, I think, was even worse. And well, it's over now. His reign of terror is now ended.
It is over now. That news dropped about an hour before we recorded last week about Thomas Tuchel, and I'm glad you've brought this up because it hides my inadequacies on the run sheet here, but also B, I'm very curious to know your thoughts on Tuchel getting the sack, because for me, I was pretty shocked that it happened.
That's one thing I missed. That actually happened. It happened on moving day, and I woke up really early on moving day, and I was like, oh, do I have time to squeeze in a post before the movers get here? And I did, and I wrote one before, and I kind of regretted it because then once the movers get here, they're picking up everything, and it ended up making my move more chaotic. So you can blame Todd Bailey and blame Tuchel for making moving day tougher for me, but yeah, that was he ended up lasting 18 days more than Frank Lampard, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. You consider he won one big trophy and one. Yeah, isn't that stat nuts?
That is wild. That is a wild stat.
Yeah, so he won one major trophy and he won one minor trophy. Lampard was a disaster, and Lampard was under the so-called trigger happy order, and well, this is what my thoughts on it were. We talked about this. I think we talked about it on the podcast. I certainly wrote it up in my Chelsea transfer window report card. There seemed to be like a very mishmash, like a crazy disjointedness to Chelsea's recruiting strategy in their transfer window. Would you agree?
Yeah, 100%, mate. Yeah.
And it was just like throwing money around and not really having any kind of plan. And I guess from the beginning, they just did not see eye to eye. And then I saw one report in which Bailey wanted Ronaldo and Tuchel shot it down. So that was more. And then you have some bad results. The loss to Southampton. And then not only do they lose to Dynamo Zagreb, we don't do pronunciations on the show, and then he does the worst thing. He calls out the attitude of his own team after it. And you're like in any sport, when you're the manager, I have to think you may think you're dead man walking whenever you talk about how much the attitude and the motivation of your own players that you are in charge of motivating sucks. But then I read his statement. I kind of felt bad for him because he said how much it gutted him, how shocking it was. But it did seem shocking, but I don't know. I thought maybe it would happen maybe around Christmas time.
I was gobsmacked by this news when it came through last week. I didn't verbalize my thoughts very well on last week's pod, so I'm glad that you've got this here so I could kind of do that now. It's incredible that he got 18 days less or 18 days more, was it? Did you say
18 days more?
He got only 18 days more than Frank Lampard. Frank Lampard got Chelsea fourth place in the Premier League. Thomas Tuchel won them the Champions League. And let's not forget, they made it to the FA Cup and League Cup finals last year. Sure, they had a couple of bad results. He also held the fort when, the sale of the club was happening and Roman Abramovich is having his assets frozen, and there was a big time of uncertainty there at Chelsea. He held the fort. He was front facing the media week in, week out, taking all the questions. I think it's just, it's emblematic of modern day football, but it's just a shitty way to treat a person that's brought a fair bit of success, held down the fort when not just the team, the club was in crisis, and a couple of bad results, and that's it. It's all over.
Part of me is happy this happened because of Christian Pulisic, because now Christian Pulisic will get a chance, and that wasn't going to happen under Tuchel. But I'm putting that aside because there needs to be, I mean, to live in a society of accountability and meritocracy, he had the merit. He deserved. Yeah, they got off to a bad start. Yeah, okay, it's still early. You know, it's a meritocracy. He earned at least I think he deserved one full season under the new regime, under the new ownership. And if not that, at least go to like, I don't know, midway, like after the holidays, at least give him that much time.
Yeah, you see, you have an easier time understanding the decision if it's like you said, the middle of the season and Chelsea are in 9th place and they're just playing horrible football. Like it'd still be harsh then, but you could understand it. But I just thought it was a very, very, very rough way for them to treat a coach that won them the Champions League, the big one as you called it. And we talked about Roman Abramovich being trigger happy. Maybe this is a sign of things to come under the new regime at Chelsea Football Club. All right, Paul, let's jump straight into the armband. Everybody knows what the armband is by now. If you don't know, though, it's a moment from the past week of football that we'd like to discuss. Something that caught our eye, good, bad, indifferent, club, country, individual. So I'm just going to jump straight into my armband this week because just peek behind the curtain. I messed up the run sheet. But I'm giving my armband to Christian Pulisic. It's a huge opportunity for Captain America, that nickname that he hates, to really get his feet under the table at Chelsea and maybe an opportunity under Graham Potter that perhaps he hasn't received in under previous regimes at Chelsea.
Yeah, I always go back to he will always be the greatest Premier League player in June and July history because of his purple patch that happened during Project Restart. And if you go back to the stats, you could argue that perhaps he was the most efficient, most productive attacking player in the entire Premier League in 1920 during that period. If you look at some other stats, you can see that he's been in other seasons, he's been among Chelsea's best attacking player in terms of goal involvements per minutes played. Obviously, he's battled some health issues. Obviously, he's often injured, but when he is healthy, no excuse. Total bullshit that he's been benched as much as he has. Even more kind of bullshit when you see that Kai Havertz and Mason Mount have done nothing in front of him. Love Raheem Sterling as a player. I think he's great. I also like it. From what I know, it seems like he's even better as a person, just given the way he's handled a lot of the adversity that's been thrown his way. So I think you pair him with Sterling, and then I don't know who's your third best attacker there, but let's find out because Mason Mount was Lampard's boy, and he actually developed pretty well under Tuchel. Kai Havertz is been a flop in some ways, but he's not treated like one because he scored the Champions League winning goal. Timo Werner, and Romelu Lukaku were flops, but they're kicking ass and taking names at their new clubs, and just like they did at their old clubs before they came to Chelsea. So let's see what Pulisic can do.
Yeah, I think it's a perfect opportunity. If he doesn't start getting some regular time under Graham Potter, though, I'm sure he's considered it already, but he'd have to consider a transfer. Interesting that Kai Havertz has got all these credits in the bank for scoring the goal that wins them the Champions League, but the manager gets the sack. But that's for that's probably for another segment. Christian Pulisic, bags of talent. He's a little bit injury prone, but once you get to that top level, I think you find a lot of players, suffer their fair share of injuries. So I think that I don't really have a lot to add except for if he doesn't shine under Graham Potter, it might be time for him to move on. There was rumors about him moving to Newcastle in the off season, and honestly, I think that would have been a perfect move for him. He would have played week in, week out. It would have been, him on one side, San Maximum on the other, and now they've got Alexander Isak through the middle. It could have really been a devastating attack, and it might be a missed opportunity for Pulisic.
It was also linked to United. There was rumors of that. There was rumors he was even offered to United on deadline day. I don't know how much truth there is to that, because I saw other reports that said United never even made a bid. I agree with you. I think Newcastle would have been perfect.
So that's who gets my armband. Definitely watch this space with regards to Christian Pulisic going forwards. Who are you giving the armband to this week, mate?
I'm going with Anthony Martial opening up and slamming two managers, Jose Mourinho and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
Wow.
I do remember. I mean, this just came out yesterday, and it's he didn't hold back. Basically, he said, with Jose, that was so obvious. I mean, they had an open feud. With the exception of Paul Pogba, I would say no one was more oil and water with Jose Mourinho than Anthony Martial. I mean,
this is very true. I think Mourinho had it out with him in the media a couple of times.
Yeah, so Martial just said it plainly. He said, "Yeah, Mourinho called me out in the media, and it started with they wanted to move his squad number to 11, give him Ryan Giggs' number, and he didn't want to do it, and they just did it anyway.
Right.
And they did it. I'm not sure why they did it, but the real thing was Martial was playing well, and they spent all that money on Alexis Sanchez, probably the worst signing in club history, the biggest flop in club history. Moved over on a free, but that crazy salary they paid him. Martial was dropped for him, and his United career never recovered, although it slightly recovered under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. When Solskjaer took over, you actually had this attack of Martial, Rashford, and Lingard. Lingard, another guy who, and they actually did pretty well for a while. And Martial, gotta be proud of me, I'm pronouncing that correctly. He called out and Solskjaer. That's
You're on fire.
Yeah. I can pronounce the name of the guys on my own favorite team. Wow. So Solskjaer never made it known throughout the media, or never made it known publicly, that Martial was injured. And he forced Martial to play through the pain, and he sucked because he was hurt. And so that's my moment. Good for him. And now we'll see. I mean, he went on loan to Sevilla, came back. No one wanted him. They couldn't sell him. Had a kick-ass preseason, which we know is not really worth anything, but hey, at least it showed something. And now he's injured, so we don't know what he's going to be now this season. But, I mean,
good on him.
I don't know. I mean, under Ten Hag, maybe this is the guy.
Good on him for getting his story out there in the media. I'll never forget his debut for Manchester United. He scored that winning goal against Liverpool, and it was just from a neutral standpoint, it was a fantastic goal. From a Liverpool standpoint, I was like, fucking hell, here they go again. They've got another one. But this is just playing to the point that he's clearly incredibly talented, and you just got to tap into him to get the best out of him. And, hopefully he can turn things around under Eric Ten Hag.
Well, it's interesting. I remember when they signed him on deadline day 2015 from Monaco, paid what seemed like a lot of money at the time, but is kind of chicken feed by today's numbers. And no one had heard of, like 36 million pounds in 2015.
Yeah.
Now that's like you can get like a decent defender for 30.
Yeah. Good luck getting a reserve goalkeeper for that much these days.
If you got a forward for that, you'd be like a third stringer. And I remember Louis Van Gaal things like, I bought this guy for the next manager, and then the next manager, and he pointed at his assistant Ryan Giggs, and I was like, Ryan Giggs is not going to manage Manchester United. So
that's aged poorly, Louis. That has aged very poorly. Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Anthony Martial and Christian Pulisic get the armbands from myself and Paul this week.
Due to the passing of Queen Elizabeth II, the longest reigning monarch in English history, it is the condensed match week. 7 of 10 fixtures will go ahead, but with the reduced schedule, with no true headliner game, we are just going to do this rapid fire. We're going to go with a different format. I'm going to give you the game. You're going to give me a score prediction, and then you're going to give me a quick hit as to why, Stewie. So let's go. Friday night is a great night for football. Aston Villa, Southampton.
Aston Villa. Steven Gerrard is the reason why. Yeah.
How did I know that was going to happen? I didn't know you'd say Stevie G. Two recently promoted clubs, Nottingham Forest and Fulham.
I think Fulham will win this one. Alexander Mitrovic has been on fire. Forest just haven't really got things clicking yet.
I think I can predict where you're going to go with this one. Wolves versus City.
City by a cricket score. And why? Erling Haaland.
Absolutely. Newcastle, Bournemouth.
Newcastle will win. Eddie Howe has just got them purring at the moment, and they're going to be a tricky fixture. They should take care of Bournemouth quite comfortably.
Tottenham Hotspur and Leicester City.
Tottenham Hotspur, and the reason being, I think Tottenham are one of the best teams in Europe right now.
London Derby, the Bees of Brentford versus Arsenal.
I want to pick the Bees, but I got to go the Gunners. Yeah, they're probably just below Spurs in terms of good teams in Europe at the moment.
And then finally, Everton hosting West Ham.
Remember the old days when we would just say, who cares?
Yeah, that's fitting here.
Yeah. The David Moyes Cup. I'm just going to go for a draw because Frank Lampard is shit. And, David Moyes is reverting to type.
It's a David Moyes Cup. How accurate is that? Although Real Sociedad would like a word on that one. I do want to chime in on Tottenham, Leicester City.
Okay.
I want to say, what's the sack watch on Brendan Rodgers?
He's next on the chopping block, surely. Tottenham get a comfortable victory here, and Rodgers is gone. He wants the sack, I think. He wants them to sack him.
You think he could be gone by international break, huh?
Yeah, I really do. Just the words from him in his press conferences. He's not a happy chappy. I think he wants them to give him the sack. He'll take a bit of a sabbatical away from football, and he'll come back after the World Cup, maybe as an international manager.
It'd be interesting to see where he lands. I actually thought he did a pretty fine job at Leicester. Other match I wanted to chime in on, and then the rest I really don't care about. I don't have commentary on. But this one, I have been noticed in your writing whenever talking about Erling Haaland. I had this piece scheduled for the international break, but with the cancellation this past weekend, I moved it up and did it. It's interesting in that here in America with the national pastime, Aaron Judge of the New York Yankees is chasing the home run record.
Right.
And what's interesting about that are there's a lot of weird coincidences in that 61 home runs is the non-steroid human science project freak home run record. Like all those other guys who hit like high 60s and hit in the 70s, they were all due to like all of a sudden their heads grew like 3 sizes in mid-adulthood. So 61 in 1961, Roger Maris. That's who Aaron Judge is choosing.
Right.
The Yankees play on the same field as NYCFC, Manchester City's American MLS club. And then the other record, Roger Maris in 1961, he had 61 homers. He broke Babe Ruth's record, who's also on the New York Yankees, obviously, of 60 in 1927. And here's where it goes. So 1927, 1928, Dixie Dean of Everton scores 63 goals, which still stands as the English top flight scoring record. So when you look at Erling Haaland's pace, I think 34, the Premier League record, he'll get that by like Boxing Day. That's whatever. He'll get that by like February. That's like nothing. Lionel Messi has the European top flight. He's at 73, and that Erling Haaland is as much as a tear as he's been on. He's still far behind Messi's pace. But Dixie Dean, I think he's right on target with it. Like he could get that one.
So Dixie Dean, is that just in the league or is that in all competitions in that 27-28 season?
Just league.
Okay. Jeez, if he gets that, that'll be next level. Listen, if anyone can match that record or beat it, it is Erling Haaland. Manchester City, I'll mention this in my preview on the Sports Bank, so check it out on the website, sportsbank.net. Great website for your football news. Manchester City were tough enough as it is. They were a scary enough prospect as it was. And then they signed this guy who's just like a man mountain, can run like Usain Bolt, has ball skills like Ronaldo, and can finish like Alan Shearer. It's just unfair. It is, as an opposition fan, it is just unfair. Manchester City, everyone was talking about Liverpool doing the quadruple last year. If they can keep this guy fat, if they can keep this guy fit, not fat, the opposite of fat, if they can keep him fit, they can do it. I think that they will do it if they can keep him fit. I just don't see how they can. Yeah. If Haaland's having an off day, which is very rare, evidenced by the incredible goal scoring tear he's been on basically since he started playing professional football, they've just got so many other ways they can kill you. And it's terrifying. Erling Haaland is he's going to break all the records in world football. Dixie Deans could be right up there on the chopping block, mate.
What a treat for neutrals, or just in general for sports, if we see both records fall this year.
This is Paul's favorite part of the podcast, the Pop Culture Corner. It's fast becoming a hit. We missed it last week, mate, so hope you've got a good one for us. Paul, what have you got for us this week, my friend?
Kind of an obvious one, kind of an easy one, because it is something that combines two things. It's called @Simpsons EFL, or @EFL Simpsons, and basically the bio says it all. English football with the Simpsons together at last.
At last.
And their pinned tweet, if you recall the episode with Frank Grimes.
Oh, yeah. Classic episode.
And he was like, Homer, and Grimes is like saying to Homer, like, "You've been to space?" Yeah, twice. Like,
you have
never been? The one I sent you, which really made me laugh out loud, was Bob Dole when taken over by the alien on the Halloween episode. And it's like, abortions for everyone. Boo. All right. No abortions for anyone. Boo. All right. Abortions for some, miniature American flags for others. Yay. And I was like, that, and it's like, yeah, it's Jurgen Klopp talking to the Liverpool fan base. All right, we're doing all Premier League, boo. Okay, fine. We'll go all in on Champions League, boo. Premier League for some, Champions League for others. Yay.
So check it out at EFL Simpsons, Paul's Pop Culture Corner.
Well, that is it for another week. As per usual, follow us at our Twitter account at @AfterET_podcast. Let's hope we can get the real one without the underscore, because nobody likes underscores. Or you can follow us individually, both of us or one of us, at Stewie is sick of it and at Paul M. Banks. You could also follow at Edge of the Crowd on most social media channels. Check out edgeofthecrowd.com, Australia's leading sports news and pop culture website. Be sure to get all of your latest football news at thesportsbank.net. And while you're at it, add at the Sportsbank Official on Insta. Finally, show the third member of the pod some love by following at Otis Ginger Tabby on Insta. He spent most of this episode out on the balcony, so he just didn't really feel like commentating this week, but we'll see what happens after the international break.
You can't keep him down.
He's taking the death of the queen quite hard, yes. If you enjoy the podcast, please click that subscribe button. And if you really dig it, please take the time to give us a 5-star rating. Until next week, he's Stuart Kavanaugh. I'm Paul M. Banks, and this has been After Extra Time.
He has nailed that. Sheer ferocity. Boy, that flew. Well, sometimes when they're hit, they stay hit. Kieran Tierney.